The next blow to the roots of Indian civilization came from the Europeans. Even after withstanding 800 years of destruction, news of the glittering gold of India was luring faraway Europe. Like Indians rush to America for prosperity today, Europeans once flocked to India to enrich their pockets and lives. But the lust for wealth turned them into cruel exploiters. Vasco da Gama, who entered with a permission to trade, ended up looting people. He began the salvation of Indians through merciless conversions. He did not even spare the persecuted Jews to whom India had given shelter in Goa. They too were tyrannized and forcibly converted to Christianity. This is the body of King Ramses of Egypt. Black pepper from India was found in his nose. And on the shores of Tamil Nadu, many Roman objects have been found. Europeans wrecked thousands of years of peaceful international trade. By destroying Indian ships, they captured the maritime industry. First came the Portuguese, then the Dutch, and then the British landed. By then, the Mughal Empire had withered. The Maratha Empire was not established across India. Attacks from the northwest frontiers were continuing. Seeing this opportunity, the British company desired to take power, then resort to open plunder. But the English had neither the manpower to fight nor the resources. So they bribed an Indian military commander and acquired full control of Bengal, the richest province in India. Along with this, missionaries were also active in emancipating the souls of Bengalis. But the English did not want any hindrance in their looting.
The East India Company had a rule that we have come to India to make money and we have not come here for any other purpose. And if any missionary came, they would send him back by the next ship. So the missionaries had to convince Parliament to pass a law that they be allowed the right to convert in India. For that, they had to say that India was a land of sin and it had evil practices like sati and female infanticide. So they concocted figures of 150,000, God knows how many women immolating in Bengal. And it is very interesting that many English officials outside Bengal, they said this is not correct. But in any case, for whatever reason, the East India Company, the British Parliament gave the missionaries the right to convert in 1813. And soon after that, Lord Bentinck abolished sati. And it is interesting that after the abolition of sati, we do not hear of a single case of sati in Bengal. Now, is it possible that if tens of thousands were immolating every year, that suddenly, it's not that there was radio and mobile and what was the means by which they came to know, and such sudden and complete compliance with an official order is very difficult. Now, in the Ramayana and Mahabharata, for example, how many wives of Dashrath immolate themselves? How many wives in the Mahabharata, the Pandavas or Kauravas immolate themselves? The Mahabharata says that the widows performed ceremonies for them. So if you do a compilation even of these ancient texts, the actual number is very small. Last point I want to make is that in independent India, around 40 cases of sati have been reported from different parts. 2/3 of these are from Rajasthan and not one from Bengal. So that gives a clue that the entire debate on sati was a missionary manufactured debate.
The belief that Hindu Dharma is the cause of every evil of Indian society is widely spread by its critics. The Varna system, caste system, slavery, and inhuman behavior are often attributed to the Hindu Dharma. Whereas the practice of slavery was foreign, here it was the Daas culture, which was originally free of exploitation. Jati is not caste. The Jati system has been in practice in India. A converted Muslim or Christian of a particular Jati is still recognized as belonging to the same Jati. Inhuman behavior has always existed in the world. Only the Varna system is unique to Hinduism, both among the Vedics and Shramans. Ascetics do not have any Varna, but Mahavir and Buddha had their origin in the Kshatriya Varna, the warrior class. Every system of Indian life was founded on the ancient science of the cosmos. According to Veda, the Varna system was based on the ancient cosmic science of creation. When the universal consciousness created the universe, everything was devoid of exceptional qualities. Extraordinary and exceptional qualities were not created. Then, with the quality of Kshatriya, warrior powers like Indra, Varun, Soma, Rudra, etc. were created. From the Brahma quality, Agni was created, that is, knowledge. From the Vaishya quality emerged the Vasu, Marut, and Ganas. And from the Shudra quality was created our supremely beautiful, nurturer of all, Mother Earth. And all the avatars of Vishnu seemed to protect her. Even with these four qualities, extraordinary and exceptional excellence was not created. Then Dharma was created. By following Dharma, everyone could attain the supreme state. Therefore, all the Varnas aspire to follow Dharma. Dharma is in essence truth. With the power of truth, even the weakest can aspire to defeat the most powerful. Here, for all the four Varnas, the reward of japa or recitation of Vishnu Sahasranam is mentioned. It says the Brahmin will be rewarded with knowledge, the Kshatriya with victory, the Vaishya with wealth, and the Shudra will be rewarded with material pleasure by reciting it. Here the reward for Shudra is material pleasure, so where is the question of their being exploited? Every human being has all the four Varnas within him, but one is prominent according to his innate nature. The ones who have the Kshatriya or Brahmin qualities are considered higher human beings because they have self-discipline and live austere lives. Buddha in his first sermon says that there is none in the world like the true Brahmin who is egoless, self-disciplined, knowledgeable, and a knower of the Brahm. It is said that a Buddha only takes birth in the Kshatriya or Brahmin Varna.
A prejudice that exists in India as well as in the West. Nowadays, in fact, is mostly borrowed by Westerners from India, where it is a very strong political movement to disparage Brahmins and to use the Buddha as a weapon against Brahminism, against Hinduism. So there the principle is, and you read 99% of the introductory books on Buddhism, they all start from this paradigm that anything good in Hinduism must have been borrowed from Buddhism. Anything bad in Buddhism must be a contamination from Hinduism. So the basic paradigm is the problem is Hinduism, the solution is Buddhism. Now, in the case of Buddhism, this is really strange. You see, the Buddha called himself Arya all the time. And this was the Arya Dharma and so on. Jainism, same thing. You see, if they wanted to rise up against the Aryans, why say Arya all the time? Also, Arya at that time connoted precisely the Vedas, the Vedic culture. So in Buddhism, you get the idea that, you see, what animated him was the idea to revive Vedic culture that had become decadent here and there. Certainly not that he was rising up against Vedic culture. Not if you go to the real sources. I mean, if you read the modern second-hand books, you might get that impression. But the reality is different. So anyway, they nonetheless managed to make the Buddha into some rebel against the vicious invader culture.
The Vaishyas gave huge donations, and Shudras got respect by becoming his disciples. The Buddha was the Anushasta, the discipliner for all. The Devta of the Shudras was Pushan. He is one of the Adityas of the sun. He is the protector of travel, marriage, and cattle. Before the Mauryas, the Nanda kings were Shudra. Kautilya, in his Arthashastra, says that the rights of Shudras should be well protected, and all Varnas should also be warrior. In the history of India, every Varna has ruled. The Hindu Dharma Shastras have stated the profession of Shudras, craft, service, and agriculture. There may have been an intermingling of professions between the Shudras and the Vaishyas. In early Vedic times, people could change their Varna according to their nature and interest. The Varna system was a dynamic system of Hindu Dharma. With time, the original Varna system was distorted by the exploitation of foreign rulers. This fact is not unfounded. The Hindu society of Bali is not divided or fragmented. It is well classified and organized. In Hinduism, there is no central ruling power, nor a single book that defines it. There were more than 100 smritis. Many had contradictory views in them. Within the Varna, the Jatis could go higher or lower. Shastrarth governed Hindu Dharma and always had an open architecture. Rishis and ascetics basically propagated the Hindu Dharma. Rishis were many. There was no Varna for the Rishi, no Jati for them. Many of the Vedic Rishis came from social groups which were outside the Varna system. The composers of the Brahman texts were not always Brahmins. The composers of the Atriya Brahman, Rishi Atriya, Kavash, Elush, or Rishi Jabal were from outside the Varna system. The composer of the Ramayana was born in the lower Jati. The promulgators and composers of the Puranas were not Brahmins. Bhagwan Vyas, the composer of the world's most colossal text, was born from the daughter of a lower Jati. Rishi Ugrashava and Rishi Romharshan, disciples in the same lineage, were from the Sut or charioteer Jati, which was considered a lower Jati. 18,000 rishis gathered in Naimisharanya, a sacred forest, to listen to the discourse on the Puranas by Sutji. Who were the Sut? The Sut Jati had an essential role in the Yajna. They were architects of Yajna. They usually held a sutra, a string, for measuring the construction of an altar, hence were called Sutradhar. The same Sut became Sutradhars, anchors of dramatic narrations that were performed during Yajna. For dance dramas, the Suts had to be invited, like the Shailush for singing. The Sut also took part in the performance of the Mahabharata or Ramayana. Suts were held in high esteem. Many artisans and sculptors used to support the Suts. Drama integrates poetry, music, dance, painting, and sculpture. Therefore, Natya Shastra is the treatise of all the rasas or emotive feelings of all the art forms. And the Yajna rituals used to be performed with elaborate drama. All Jatis participated in it. Different styles of dances have elaborate narratives and stories. Kathak means enactment of a katha, story. The destruction of Yajna and temples pushed Kathak into the brothels and many Jatis to the lowest levels. From Yajna to temple, from birth to death, every Jati was meant to complement each other. Today, genetic research has proved that the lower and higher Jatis of India have a single source. Dr. Balasaheb Ambedkar also said that the Brahmins and untouchables have their origin in a single source. From where then did this inhuman discrimination come? It came through the influence of the Greek, Arab, Turk, and British regimes. Many of these inhuman practices were seen in the system of slavery. And slavery was not Indian, it was foreign. Till recent times, some Europeans used to keep slaves in zoos with the animals. Their children were sold and separated from them forever. They were not allowed to have a family of their own. They were bought, sold, and killed like animals. Their hands and legs could be cut off even for making trivial mistakes. This father did not finish his job, so they chopped the hands and feet of his daughter and handed them to him. Helpless, benumbed, he is staring at them. Those who fostered slavery are now being called the gods of justice all over the world. And many judges and lawyers are made by reading and learning from their writings. The descendants of the slave owners are now giving sermons on human rights to India. Megasthenes, the ambassador of Greece, lived in India for 40 years. He wrote that there are no slaves in India. This was a fact of 300 BC. But slaves did exist in India, but they were not like the Greeks.
Condition in which somebody can become Das. You cannot make Das. A Brahman was not allowed to become a Das, and he was not allowed to take anybody as a Das. Number one. Only for the physical survival, you could accept Das, to become Das of somebody. Das means, suppose you have problem with physical survival because of time of famine, you don't have anything to eat, but I have enough. So you become my Das. You come and say that I am your Das. So as long as that famine condition remains, you work in the house, earn your livelihood, and once the famine condition is over, you are free to go back. If there is anything due, please pay and go back. Nobody could actually make you slave for all your life. And remember, it's an amazing thing. Slaves had the right of their own property. Slaves have the right of their own life. You could not take it away. Family, more than that, if there is a girl who has pledged herself as a Das, owner had no right to have any physical relationship with them. In case he went for it, offspring will have the same right in the property as a real son, as a real wife's son. That kind of rights were given and protected, and more than that, Kautilya rights, Manu right, that if suppose food has been made ready, suddenly some guests drop in, so you have to adjust within that food. Manu orders very clearly, Manu says, orders very clearly, that no share will be reduced of Das. He will get his full meal, rest would be divided in order to accommodate the guests. That kind of things were there.
Greek kings ruled in some parts of Western India from the 3rd century BC. The inhuman treatment of the Shudras started taking place from that time onwards. And the Hindus were exposed to the slave system of the Greeks, Turks, and the British. During the reign of Muslim rulers under Sharia, many jatis of Hindus were treated like slaves. The English often treated Indians like dogs. Much like their African slaves, they also considered Indians to be lower-grade humans. Some Englishmen were so cruel that if a servant was sluggish while fanning them for long hours, they would hit him. Sometimes, this led to the death of the slave. Manusmriti considers the hands of a sculptor as sacred. These sculptors and artisans who used to build the Yajna-Vedi and temple complexes were the primary jatis of India. Jati means Gyati, Jatis were actually occupational groups of arts, crafts, and knowledge, etc. But later, they were altered and distorted. The impact of destruction by Muslim rulers and dismantling of the local industry by the British pushed many of these jatis into a backward state. Many weavers had to cut off their thumbs to escape oppression. Many artisans committed suicide or they died of hunger. What Megasthenes had said about Indian society, Karl Marx repeated 2,200 years later. Marx knew that Indian society is free from exploitation, but said it worships animals and trees. Therefore, he said, we will destroy it, and it will be a pleasurable destruction. This ideology of the Marxists to create such conflicts has continued till today. But within the Jati system, there was no conflict but cooperation. No work of society could be completed without mutual cooperation. Jatis had exclusive rights over their economic affairs. Only a potter could make pots, no one else. Only cobblers could make shoes, no one else. This was unique. And more importantly, all lived self-sufficiently in society. A Jati would not try to grab another Jati's business. All had the right of spiritual knowledge. Cobbler Raidas was venerated by all and was the guru of Mirabai, a Rajput. His water bowl has been considered as sacred as the Ganges. But unfortunately, even today, the colonizers and those who follow their slave mentality believe that the main reason for India's plight is the Hindu Dharma. In America, Swami Vivekananda was told that the poor condition of India is due to the Hindu Dharma. If it embraced Christianity, it would become rich. Vivekananda showed them the mirror and said, we do not want to become rich like you by killing people. We don't want riches stained in blood. We are better off being poor. Till the end of the 20th century, it was widely believed that the main reason for India's economic backwardness was Hindu Dharma. But the truth was revealed as the 21st century approached. All over the world, reports started coming that India and China were once the most prosperous countries in the world. The Europeans had looted and ruined them. To find the truth of this, the OECD countries launched a major project to study it. A team was constituted under the chairmanship of Professor Angus Maddison. They started studying the history of the GDP of the world. When the report was published, the whole world was shocked. With a 34% share, India was once the wealthiest country in the world. That too, for 1,000 years and without looting anyone. There is no such example in the history of the world. But India was pushed down by plunderers and by exploitation. Before Britain started plundering India, it was still in the first place with a share of 24.5% of world GDP. In 1800, its wealth came down to 20%. In 1830, it was reduced to 17%. In 1880, down to 8%. And in 1900, it was only 1.7%. Who looted India's wealth? The British looted India's wealth. The palatial edifice of a great civilization crumbled. Indian society, which was industry-based from the times of the Indus Valley civilization, became poor within 100 years of British rule and became agriculture-based. During famines, 1/3 of the population perished. In spite of this, the revenue of the British East India Company increased manifold. From where did the farmers pay their taxes? The farmers sold the gold of generations to pay their taxes. The gold of Indian farmers still glitters in the city of London. And here, the Indian governments are still struggling to get the farmers out of that misfortune. Gold, silver, minerals, food grains, even fodder was not spared. One collector wrote to the viceroy that it had not rained, so nothing was sown. There is only grass in the fields. The target of revenue cannot be met. The viceroy sent the reply, "Grass is a good commodity. Sell it and send the money." The most fertile land on earth, where monsoon rains brought maximum water, was reduced to the land of famines. While millions were dying of hunger, the food grains of India were being sent to the armies of the empire. People who used to call food Brahm, who would not eat food but receive it respectfully, who would first offer it to a cow, a dog, a Brahmin, a priest, a servant or a guest, were starving to death, and their bodies were being eaten by dogs. India's population is basically vegetarian. When the mercury rises above 40 degrees, it is impossible to stay alive without salt. A heavy tax was put on salt. Colonizers earned millions by exporting it. India could never imagine that someone would kill them in this way. Due to salt deficiency, children died in the womb. The English created famines in India. Within 120 years, 31 major famines occurred. Smaller famines would occur practically every year. During these famines, people died in millions. The last famine occurred in 1943, in which over 3 million died in Bengal. At the time, it looked as if Western human values were but a mask over their inhuman civilization. But at the same time, there were many scientists and scholars who respected Indian wisdom and knowledge.
Today, such people are not produced anymore because now everybody in the West is being put on guard against Hinduism. You see, now it is this infiltration by these Hindu nationalists who are really fascists, and be careful. And you see, you find that, for instance, in any writings nowadays about the Aryan invasion debate, even on genetics, which nowadays is so much talked about, people who have really no knowledge, no understanding of Indian politics, nevertheless, they know just enough to be alerted against any sign of Hindu nationalism, and so they sort of tailor their findings, at least the presentation of their findings, so as not ever to benefit any Hindu nationalist project. And so that translates into more and more people being anti-Hindu. And even if they borrow effective Hindu knowledge, or what was originally Hindu knowledge, you see, either they deny it is Hindu, or they just simply don't talk about it. Sometimes they even don't know about it.
Every part of the earth is unique and beautiful. The earth's environment affects human behavior and lifestyle. Therefore, every human race is blessed with a unique worldview. And this unique thinking and identity brings diversity and beauty to the human race. India's unique identity is her thought of Dharma. But now, Dharma is understood as religion. Ram, the Dharma incarnate, is considered a myth by many. Now it is the turn of the icon of Dhamma, Buddha. Vipassana is being called mindful meditation and Padmasana, cross-legged sitting. This is intellectual corruption. These were among the many ways in which many civilizations were culturally corrupted. The impact of these kind of acts can be seen on the Indian mind. Today, the sacred western part of the Rigvedic land is not thought about by the Indians. The extent to which the culture of river worship is lost, to the same extent, sacred Indian land has been lost. Now Indians don't even know the names of rivers that were once worshipped by their ancestors. The Kubha, Gomti, Krumu, Susartu, Shveta, Methnu, and Swastu. The Indus, the river on whose name Hindu and Hindustan were given, does not resonate in the minds of Indians. India's land is well protected from two sides by the world's tallest mountain ranges, and on the other two sides by the ocean. All four sides are secured, and the land is most fertile. When this form and character, Naam and Roop of Bharat, was disregarded by the Indians, they failed to protect even two mountain passes. The idea that India can be divided easily took hold in the minds of Indians, and the demand for further division often gets a voice. Before cutting a limb, it is first numbed to make it insensitive. This Vichar Nag temple of Srinagar has been silenced. Here, philosophers like Acharya Shankar and Abhinava Gupta once used to conduct philosophical debates, Shastrarth. The destruction of Vichar Nag brought the destruction of the cultural traditions of Shastrarth and logic.
तो सृष्टि के आरंभ से ही वाद था ही, क्योंकि उपनिषदों में कहा गया कि एक परम पुरुष था, उसने अपने आप को विस्तारित करना चाहा तो दो भागों में अपने आप को विभाजित कर लिया उसी ने। तो एक से दो जैसे ही होंगे तो वाद और संवाद उनमें हो जाएगा। तो उतनी ही परंपरा पुरानी है वाद की, और उसको फिर हमारे यहाँ बहुत दार्शनिक आयाम के साथ में देखा गया कि वाद की क्यों आवश्यकता है, क्योंकि जो बौद्धिक विमर्श है उसके लिए तो आवश्यकता है ही। तो संस्कृत ही एक ऐसी भाषा है जिसमें कि डिबेट को लेकर के शास्त्रीय ग्रंथ लिखे गए, डिबेट की जो थ्योरी है उसको लेकर के कई ग्रंथ लिखे गए, और न्याय दर्शन तो पूरा वाद शास्त्र ही है, जिसको हम अंग्रेजी में कहना चाहें तो फिर डिबेटोलॉजी कहेंगे, क्योंकि दूसरी भाषा में तो इस तरह का कोई शब्द ही नहीं है। हमारे यहाँ तो वाद शास्त्र शब्द हो गया, वाद पूरा एक अलग चिंतन का प्रस्थान ही हो गया। तो गौतम मुनि ने न्याय सूत्र में जो 16 कैटेगरीज बताई हैं, प्राण, प्रमेय, संशय, प्रयोजन, तर्क, सिद्धांत, अवयव, छल, जाति, निग्रह, ये जो 16 पदार्थ हैं, इनका अभ्यास करता जाए तो मुक्ति प्राप्त हो जाती है। तो उनकी जो सारी 16 कैटेगरीज हैं वो सब वाद की ही कैटेगरीज हैं। तर्क है, उसमें अनुमान है, अनुमान में पंचावय वाक्य होता है, तो बहस जब करते हैं तो पंचावय वाक्य कैसे बनेगा, प्रतिज्ञा है तो उपनय, दृष्टांत और निगमन, इनसे हम तर्क करते हैं। तो मेरी हाइपोथेसिस ये है, उसके लिए उदाहरण मैं ये दूंगा, उसमें फेलेसी ये हो सकती है। तो ये सारी बहुत जटिल व्यवस्थाएं उन्होंने जो वाद की बनाई, उसमें निग्रह स्थान है, तो उसमें उन्होंने करीब 20 निग्रह स्थान बताए, और 22 निग्रह स्थान और 24 जातियाँ उन्होंने बताई। तो गलत उत्तर प्रतिवादी यदि देता है तो उसकी पहचान कैसे होगी, उसकी सारी कैटेगरीज उन्होंने बताई। तो ये वाद शास्त्र हमारे यहाँ विकसित किया गया। उसके द्वारा ऋषियों ने, हमारे चिंतकों ने बताना चाहा कि बहस को भी हम उपयोग कर सकते हैं समाज को ऊंचाई पर ले जाने के लिए और संवाद में परिणत करने के लिए, क्योंकि जो वाद है, सच्चा वाद तभी होगा जब वह संवाद में परिणत होगा, और संवाद में परिणत होगा तो हमको मुक्ति की ओर ले जाएगा, क्योंकि चित्त पवित्र होकर के दो लोग आपस में एक दूसरे को समझते हैं तो अंडरस्टैंडिंग पैदा होती है, वह हमको संस्कारित करके और मुक्ति की ओर ले जाती है। तो ये एक बड़ी संपन्न परंपरा है।
Whenever a philosophical dispute arose in the Buddhist Sangha, they adopted a voting option. The chariot of Dharma was accelerated by the wheels of democracy. Dharma provides infinite space for logic and yoga to liberate the human consciousness. But religion fragments human consciousness into believers and non-believers.
ऋग्वेद से प्रारंभ करें, पहली पंक्ति को देखें। ऋषि जब अग्नि की स्तुति करता है तो इस रूप में नहीं करता कि मैं स्तुति करने वाला पुरोहित हूँ और अग्नि मेरे सामने रखा हुआ देवता है जिसकी मैं स्तुति कर रहा हूँ। नहीं, मैं ही अग्नि हूँ, अग्नि ही मैं हूँ, पूरे अस्तित्व से जोड़ रहा है। और फिर उपनिषद ने इसकी व्याख्या की कि जो इस तादात्म्य को, इस एकत्व को जान न सकेगा वो शोक और मोह से मुक्त नहीं हो सकेगा। यस्य सर्वाणि भूतान्य आत्मेव भूत विजानत है तत्र को मोह है कै शोक है एकत्वम अनुपश्यत है। जिसने इस एकत्व को देख लिया उसको मोह भी नहीं रहेगा, शोक भी नहीं रहेगा। ये बात उपनिषद में आई, वेद के बाद गीता पर आ जाएं, सर्व है वासुदेवमिति, ये सब कुछ वासुदेव ही है। आप देखते हैं कालक्रम में किस प्रकार से एक ही बात को भिन्न भिन्न ग्रंथ किस तरह से कह रहे हैं। भगवान महावीर को देखें, अहिंसा को केंद्र में रखकर किस बात को कह रहे हैं। तुममसि तुमम नाम जम हंतव्यमिति मन्नसि, जिसको तू ये सोचता है कि इसका मैं हनन कर दूंगा वो कोई दूसरा नहीं है, तू स्वयं ही है।
Science has no remedy for fragmented humanity.
विज्ञान परिस्थिति में परिवर्तन कर देता है, व्यक्ति को नहीं बदलता है। ज्ञान का काम परिस्थिति में परिवर्तन तो करना है ही, व्यक्ति का रूपांतरण भी है। ऐसे समझे, मान लीजिए कोई अर्थशास्त्री है और वो ये सोचे कि मुझे परिवर्तन करना है, तो वो ये करेगा कि गरीबी को दूर कर देगा और आदमी अमीर हो जाएगा। लेकिन ये भी परिवर्तन ही हुआ, रूपांतरण न हुआ। इस अर्थ में कि अगर एक गरीब आदमी अमीर हो जाता है तो क्या ज़रूरी है कि उसका लोभ भी समाप्त हो जाए। हमने ज्ञान को सर्वोपरि माना। ध्यान का बहुत शोर रहता है, लेकिन ध्यान को भी हमने द्वितीय श्रेणी का माना, क्योंकि ध्यान का प्रभाव भी अस्थाई होता है। स्थायी प्रभाव उस ज्ञान का है जिसे हमने अपरोक्ष अनुभूति शब्द से कहा, साक्षात्कार शब्द से कहा, टू नो बाई आइडेंटिटी श्री अरविंद ने कहा। पदार्थ को उसके साथ तादात्म्य संबंध स्थापित करके जानना है। हम पदार्थ के चारों तरफ घूमते रहेंगे, ये भौतिक विज्ञान का तरीका है। उसके चारों ओर के परिवेश को जानेंगे, उसकी विशेषताओं को जानेंगे, लेकिन उन विशेषताओं के बीच जो ओतप्रोत विशेष्य है उसको नहीं जान पाएंगे। जो उन विशेषताओं से विशेषित है उसे नहीं जान पाएंगे। उसे हम तभी जान पाएंगे जब अपना तादात्म्य संबंध उसके साथ स्थापित कर लेंगे।
Science has, on one hand, given us immense comforts, but it has also given us the pain and stress of pollution. Science has sucked away the powers of nature through machines, made life miserable by a massive exploitation of nature. About 1,000 years ago, a yogi was born in India named Abhinava Gupta. He was from Kashmir. He tried to heal the fragmented consciousness of all Indians.
So there are many different schools of philosophy, and when we study Indian philosophy here, we see all of them arguing with each other. There's Sankhya, Yoga, Advaita, the Buddhism, Jainism, etc. Now, what we see in this Pratyabhijna school, which developed in Kashmir from around the 9th century, which also Abhinava Gupta did not invent, he wrote commentaries on it and developed it further, is that we see how all of these different systems of Indian thought, they all come together in Abhinava Gupta. He hierarchizes, gives a certain hierarchy to them. And then he also brings in schools which are Buddhist schools, different Buddhist schools, especially Buddhist logic, and then Jainism, etc. So he studied with many different teachers. So we get a certain vision of Hinduism, Hindu philosophy, which is very complete. He had done it so well that he had a huge influence on late Buddhist developments in Kashmir, Tibetan Buddhism is very influenced by Abhinava Gupta subsequently, a tradition which they were arguing with, but in a very friendly way, in a very peer-to-peer way. So Abhinava Gupta, as I said, he brings many things which we are not able to fit together, how they relate to each other. He is able to bring together. After reading him, you see actually a kind of a harmonious vision of this diversity. That's why I began by quoting Sir Christopher Bailey saying that Hinduism didn't exist, because they cannot see the relations. But when if you want to start doing such a thing, with Abhinava Gupta, you start with this, you get this kind of an integral vision.
Abhinav Gupta said that this whole world is a cosmic play of infinite consciousness.
भारतीय संस्कृति या भारतीय सभ्यता के केंद्र बिंदु को हम देखना चाहें, उसकी अजरता अमरता के रहस्य को हम समझना चाहें, तो 2-4 बिंदु हैं। पहला बिंदु है समस्त विश्व एक है, यत्र विश्वम भवत्येक नीडम, वेद का मंत्र है। ग्लोबलाइजेशन की बहुत चर्चा होती है, लेकिन ग्लोबलाइजेशन का सबसे पहला उल्लेख मंत्र में, वेद मंत्र में है। ये जो सीमाएं बनाई हैं, मनुष्य ने बनाई हैं, प्रकृति में सीमाएं नहीं हैं। ये पहली बात है जिसको भारतीय मनीषा ने समझा। दूसरी बात, जैसा पिंड में है वैसा ब्रह्मांड में है, क्योंकि जिन तत्वों से पिंड बना है उन्हीं तत्वों से ब्रह्मांड बना है। तीसरी बात, पिंड और ब्रह्मांड के बीच कोई भेदक रेखा नहीं है, भक्ति की चर्चा होती रहती है। यानी जब पिंड अपने आप को ब्रह्मांड से अलग समझने लगता है तो वो विभक्त हो जाता है। इस शब्द का मैं प्रयोग कर रहा हूं, विभक्त का माने भक्त नहीं रह जाता। लेकिन जब वो ब्रह्मांड से जुड़ जाता है, पूरे अस्तित्व से जुड़ जाता है, तो वो भक्त हो जाता है, यानी वो भाग बन जाता है सारे का। ज्ञान हो, कर्म हो, भक्ति हो, ये 3 धाराओं की चर्चा गीता में विशेष रूप से है। तीनों मार्गों का मूल मंत्र एक ही है, अहंकार का विसर्जन। ज्ञान का अर्थ है क्योंकि मैं संपूर्ण का अंग हूँ, इसलिए संपूर्ण की इच्छा से जैसा हो रहा है वैसा हो रहा है, मैं करता नहीं हूँ किसी चीज़ का। अहंकार विमूढ़ आत्मा करता हमिति मन्यते। ये ज्ञान में अहंकार के विसर्जन की समझ है। भक्ति में अहंकार के विसर्जन का अर्थ है मैं भक्त हूँ, भाग हूँ पूरे अस्तित्व का। पूरे अस्तित्व की इच्छा में मेरी इच्छा समर्पित है। ये भक्ति का तरीका है अहंकार को समाप्त करने का। कर्म में, कर्म का जो भी फल है वो प्रकृति से आया है और प्रकृति में ही जा रहा है। कोई फल मैं पैदा नहीं कर सकता हूं, प्रकृति ही सब कुछ पैदा कर रही है, इसलिए उस पर प्रकृति का ही अधिकार है, मेरा अधिकार नहीं है। माँ फलेषु कदाचन, ये कर्म के द्वारा अहंकार के विसर्जन का तरीका है।
Many great scholars have in the past studied the depth and vastness of Indian civilization and culture. Here we can summarize our small effort in these lines. Vedas are the pinnacle of Indian civilization of ancient times. Abhinav Gupta is the confluence of various traditions in medieval times. And poet Jai Shankar Prasad's epic poem, Ramayana, radiates the wisdom of Abhinav Gupta in modern times. Our existence is but a blissful manifestation of a single consciousness. Then why are we sad and sorrowful? Our knowledge and actions are separated, then how can desires be fulfilled? They do not complement each other. That is the dilemma of life. Humans suffer because the direction of knowledge is one thing and that of action is another. Desires are not fulfilled, therefore life is fragmented. The playful divine diversity of the blissful, all-pervading consciousness is absent in our lives. In the absence of diversity, there can be no vada or debate, no opportunity for sharpening of logic, and hence no way of establishing the truth. With the degradation of logic, truth is endangered. But devtas or divinities are the powers of nature. Those who attack the diversity of divinities are now claiming to be the champions of nature's diversity. This seems like the height of hypocrisy. Some religions say only one God is true, and that too from our book. These thoughts have become powerful all over the world. They have the support of more than 50 countries. This is the age of globalization. They have with them trained leadership of international standard and a lot of foreign money. World-class organized media is with them. There is not a single country that worships so many divine manifestations of the infinite consciousness. There are many organizations to protect biodiversity, but not a single one to protect the divine diversity. The many forms of the arts that create the rasa of Anand, the blissfulness of life, is rare to find. The god of art, Bharati, was taken away by looters, and now only graves occupy the Bhojshala. The land of dancing Natraj is being gradually reduced on the face of the earth. That day is not far when India will ask for 5 villages, and the answer will be not even a tip of the needle. Wake up, India. Mother India is being surrounded by the core of forces. Think, but don't just keep thinking. Be decisive and rise up to save your land, legacy, and life. The world is a continuous war between the gods and demons. Be not afraid, India. Do not renounce. Be a yogi, India. The memory of yogis remains firm. They do not forget. Their kundalini is always awake and reminds the yogi of its existence. O Bharat, you have already forgotten your injuries, and now you have forgotten your nature. The Adi Yogi never forgets the nature of Bharat. Let us remember his incarnate, Adi Shankara. He left his home at the age of 8 and became an authority on Indian philosophy at the age of 16. At the age of 32, before leaving his mortal body, he did 3 pradakshinas or ambulations across India. He could not go to this northwestern part, which is not in India today. He established the foundation stones of temples and placed priests in every village so that the storm of invasions would not annihilate the Dharma. He established 4 mutts or monasteries in the 4 corners of India so that no one would dare to strip the dignity of Bharat Mata, Mother India. He single-handedly brought India together without shedding blood, without spreading hatred, all with the strength of logic and Vad or debate. India had a tradition of Vad and thought. The defeated one had to become the disciple of the winner along with his disciples. Today, Shankara is preparing for Shastrarth or intellectual debate with the profound scholar Mandan Mishra. Mandan Mishra was a scholar of ritualism and a proponent of family life, while Shankara was of knowledge and renunciation. If Shankara is defeated, he has to give up renunciation and marry. If Mandan Mishra loses, he has to leave his family and wife and embrace renunciation. A judge was to be appointed. Old Mandan Mishra thought, Shankar is a child, so he requested Shankar to select a judge of his choice. Shankara showed much maturity and requested the wife of Mandana Mishra, O mother, accept being the judge. Bharati herself was very knowledgeable. She accepted the offer but hesitated. She thought, if her husband loses, then he will have to renounce all, and she will become like a widow. But this land has a tradition of brave women sacrificing their lives to uphold the truth. That great scholarly lady took the seat of the judge. She said, "Since you both are great scholars, the debate may continue for a long time. Therefore, every day before the Shastrarth, I will put a garland of fresh flowers around both of your necks. The one whose garland withers away will be declared the loser." It is said that the Shastrarth continued for 18 days. Then suddenly, while giving an answer to a question, Mandan Mishra got distracted and his garland became pale. He lost the Shastrarth. He was a great scholar, no doubt, but only of letters. He could not keep control of his emotions. The temperature of his body rose in excitement, and the garland withered. He had not conquered the mind. He was not free from Prakriti or nature, but Shankara was Shankara. Centuries have passed since he left. Can he guide us today? Tradition says that Shankara is the guru of the Hindus in Kali Yuga, the present Yuga. Rise above preconceived ideas and remain detached and calm in debate to resolve all conflicts. That is the message of Shankara to all democratic societies. With obeisance at his lotus feet, we come to the end of the journey of yogic culture of India.
Sendriyamanasa niyamadevam Sendriyamanasa niyamadevam Drakshasinicha hridayasam devam Bhaja Govindam Bhaja Govindam